Demonic possession was something that was widely known for thousands of years, but with the advent of modern medicine, doctors have told us that there is no such thing, that it's all in the brain. For the most part, they've been able to convince the masses, but that's because they're hiding the truth from us. This video is a testimony of a man whose mother was undoubtedly demon-possessed, and listen to what happened when he tried to get her records at the psychiatric hospital.
I was in school, and somebody came and knocked on the door in school, and there were, guys in suits standing there, and the teacher turned around, called my name, and said, "Could you come out into the hallway?" So I went out to the hallway. There were policemen there. And I got in the car with my neighbor, and it was his dad, picked me up. So we're heading back to our house, and he says, something happened today. And I was like, "What?" He says, "Well, your mother tried to kill your sister." And how'd that happen? Well, she was chasing her around the car outside with a butcher knife, trying to kill her. And the guy that drove me home witnessed it. So ultimately, what they did that day, they brought the mental institution over, and they put her in a straitjacket, and they took her away. So once they took her away, I asked my sister, I said, "So what happened?" And my sister said that she was in the kitchen. My mother was in the kitchen. My sister was in the living room. And she heard my mother say, in a brash voice, "You're a witch, you're a witch." And my mother said that she needed to kill her because she was a witch. So she went chasing after her. And the only thing that saved my sister's life was when I left in the morning. It was a nice spring day. So there's a door, and then there's another door to the outside. And in that space is where you take off your boots. It's called a mud room. I had left that door open. I had left the exterior door open, and the swinging screen door was unlatched. So my sister was able to just grab the door and push her way through the two doors. And she said that's what saved her life, that I didn't close any of the doors, because my mother was right behind her, and she would have caught her if she had to take the time to open those doors.
Oh, okay. What was I imagine your sister was probably traumatized by that. What was your reaction after hearing it?
Well, my sister actually left that week. That was it. She went down and lived with my grandmother in Toronto, where we moved from. And my reaction, I mean, I really didn't have a reaction. It was just like, "Oh, yeah, okay." But when they took her away, I was more, "Oh my gosh, I can actually sleep tonight without having somebody trying to get in my room." I never knew her intentions. I never knew what this was. People said, "Well, why didn't you call in a priest, or, someone to do a demonic, exorcism?" So we had no idea what we would live through this while we were kids, so we had no idea what this was. We just all thought she was crazy. And my dad was never home. So it was just the three of us. And what do you expect children to do that grow up in this? So I had a very melancholy response to it, other than the fact that I thought, "Oh, this is going to be great." Now, I'm a minor.
How old are you?
At that time, I think when that actually happened, I think I was 13.
Okay.
I was definitely a minor. I wasn't 16, that's for sure, or 18 or anything like that. And I was still living at home by myself. But they brought her back 3 months later. You see, I found out that she signed herself in to the mental institution. And the law is, if you sign yourself in, request to sign yourself in, you can sign yourself out. So, she was a very intelligent woman for being the way she was, because 3 months later, after trying to commit murder of her children, at least one of them, she was allowed back in the house. So 3 months later, she came back to the house, which was shocking. I thought that was shocking.
Yeah. I mean, it is shocking to me to hear that they would let her go back to the house in the first place. No trial, no anything, because she had signed herself in. I don't really know how this works. This was also a long time ago, so I'm not sure. But also, when she came back into the house, it got even worse.
Yes, it did get worse. And before I tell you that, I'll tell you that I had actually talked to a guy a few years back, probably about 3, 4 years ago, when I first wrote the book. Um, he told me that he was a priest in Ontario, Canada during the 70s and early 80s. And he said to me, because I told him the story, and he said that had to have been protocol. She must have done something that was very, very strange while she was being held at the mental institution, because he said that if it was beyond their diagnosis, that's why they returned her, because they couldn't find anything wrong with her. And he said that was protocol back then, that she must have did something very, very, let's just say supernatural or paranormal. Because I'll tell you something interesting. When I was doing research for my second book and I ended up calling the mental institution, I asked for her records. And they said, "Oh yeah, sure." And they said, "Well, when was her when was she a patient?" I said, "Well, during the late 70s and the early 80s." He said, "Oh, well, we would have burned those records. We don't have those records." But she goes, "Oh, just for, just let me check. You never know." So I told her the name and she goes, "Huh." She goes, "All her records are archived off campus." And I said, "Oh, great." Well, I said, "Well, I'd like to get those." And she said, "Okay, well, you pay $35. Let me get them, and then I'll give you a call in a couple of days, and you can apply and pay the $35 and then get them." So I called. I didn't hear from a week, and then I called her back and I asked for the records, and someone else answered the phone, and they said, "Oh, we have no records of that. We have no records of her."
So they lost the records in the few days that took, or a few.
Yes, in the week that I called back. Yeah. And I told that guy who was an exorcist, I told him that that happened. And he said that would have been protocol. They would have kept the records, archived them off campus, because something unusual happened while she was in their care. And it was documented as but we don't have a diagnosis of it. That's why they kept the records. But when I asked for them, saying that I was researching for a book, that's when all of a sudden they disappeared.
Yeah. I mean, that's not shocking to hear that she would have done something supernatural in the mental hospital, because she did that all the time with you.
Yes.
So it's actually something you would expect to happen, and it would make sense as a hospital or psychiatric clinic that you would not want these things to come to light, because then it kind of breaks your reputation as being able to help these people. So everything tracks for me.